Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Great to have you with us today. Maryland lawmakers have wrapped up their work for the year, and they are headed home from Annapolis. In our first segment this time, a look at how the Washington suburbs fared. Delegate Kumar joins us now. He's chairman of the Transportation and Environment Committee in the Maryland House of Delegates. He's also running for the congressional seat now held by Democrat Chris Van Hollen. Good to have you here. Thanks
it's great to be
for
here.
Going on. In terms of the things that you would have identified back in January when the Maryland legislature convened, the things you would have said Montgomery County wants to get and Montgomery County wants to block or prevent, through that lens, how did Montgomery County, how did the D.C. region, if you want to broaden the lens in that sense, how did we do in this year's session?
I think we did great. To begin with, there was a major road construction project in Gaithersburg, Maryland called the Watkins Mill Interchange that the governor initially tried to stop. It was already paid for, and we were able to confront the governor and get him to agree to that interchange. That was a big victory for Montgomery County specifically. But there are other things that Montgomery Countyans care a lot about, like greenhouse gas reduction. We passed a major law on that. Montgomery Countyans care about protecting pollinators, honeybees, and we passed the first law in the United States of America to do that as well, and that all went through my committee. And then finally, we got Paul Wiedefeld, who is the executive manager of WMATA, to come in and talk to us about the metro system and what he was going to do to fix that broken system. And frankly, he impressed my committee, and he impressed me.
Why?
This is a man of action. This is a person who understands how bad the system is, how fragile and broken it is, and he's willing to take unpopular stances to fix it, and we're with him on this.
Does his approach, and we've already seen something during the brief Wiedefeld era that we've never seen in the 40-year history of Metro, and that people looking around the country at other systems have a hard time finding a parallel, referring to the day-long shutdown where they said, you know what, it was on a Tuesday, I think, they said, we're going to get people home tonight, but Wednesday, we're shut down. We'll, if all goes well,
for 29 hours.
We will reopen on Thursday morning. Hard to find a parallel for that anywhere in the history of American rail. So what Paul Wiedefeld seems to be bringing is a sense that this is an agency that has, the transit, the subway has not been well maintained and is precarious. I mean, not that, you know, I'm trying to scare people from being on it, but
the word he used was fragile. You know, there's a new sheriff in town, and the fact of the matter is, who else could shut down the federal government for a day? Nobody else that I know of except for the president. The fact of the matter is that he saw a safety threat to the riders, and he understands that this system is unsafe, it needs to be fixed, and if it isn't, riders will continue to abandon it. And if that happened, that would be an economic disaster for the entire region.
We know that money for WMATA comes from the state of Maryland, the state of Virginia, the District of Columbia, and of course from the fare box and the federal government.
That's right.
To what extent do you think the federal willingness to continue to support the system, to sort of be a fourth partner on top of the traditional three? It was, of course, the state of Virginia, Maryland, D.C., and the communities the counties that were kind of the originators of the compact. A lot of people thinking that because of the number of federal employees who take the system every day, the number of tourists who ride the system, that the federal government needs to be a fourth partner. Will lawmakers, will members of Congress be concerned about that they're throwing good money after bad if Metro stays on its current course?
What members of Congress ought to be concerned about is the very possibility that the transit system of the capital of the nation and the world becomes paralyzed. That's an unacceptable turn of events. And Paul Wiedefeld has basically announced to the world, not just to America, to the world, that he's prepared to step up and take risks and make this system work. And that's what we needed. And frankly, I hope at least, members of Congress will have confidence in him and his leadership style and back him in the only significant way, and that's with money. And certainly, I think the members of the Congress from the Washington Metro region have got to do that.
Let's talk more about what the Assembly did this year. A year ago, Baltimore neighborhoods went up in flames. There were large-scale public disturbances because of the death of Freddie Gray.
That's right.
The Maryland legislature, among others, in the wake of all that, took a look at police training, accountability, conduct, etc. And you did two things. Let's talk first about the police accountability action that you and your colleagues took this year. What can we expect from that?
Well, look, the bottom line here is there has to be a change in culture in policing. This culture of just reach for your gun first has got to change. Policing agencies in Maryland and throughout America have to really be trained in de-escalating violent confrontations. Policing agencies throughout Europe and in Montgomery County itself have that kind of training. We need that throughout the entire state of Maryland, and I'm happy to say that our legislature has taken the lead in beginning the process of accomplishing that. That is important. De-escalating violent confrontations has to be the first resort, not something that you do after you reach for your gun.
Criminal sentencing reform was a big feature of this year's session as well. There was something there that I know at least some of your colleagues feel very good about.
Right. Well, the Justice Reinvestment Act and other measures to begin to scale back some of the sentencing. What we've discovered is that if you put people in jail for too long, they just become better criminals and they come out onto the street and don't have skills or the ability to support themselves through other than a criminal lifestyle. And I think the Maryland General Assembly has made a bold statement that we need to reinvestigate how we handle criminal justice. And especially in the case of addiction, that is being seen more and more, as I've always believed it should, as primarily a public health crisis.
An area for the health system generally, private and public, to step up.
That's right.
If we're going to sort of continue with this notion.
Correct. Exactly.
Talking with Maryland State Delegate Kumar. He's a House candidate. He's running for the congressional seat now held by 8th District Congressman Chris Van Hollen. We'll take a break here. We're back with more News Talk right after this.